Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at Aukey's EP-T31. These are a pair of budget TWS wireless buds. I see them as a competitor to the likes of, say, Redmi's AirDots, and they sell for around $30. Well, officially it retails for a little more than that, but often you can find a coupon that is automatically applied at checkout, which brings the price to around that range. And despite the low price, it does have a few flourishes which are interesting to find. For example, it supports Qi wireless charging for the battery case, meaning that you can pop it onto a Qi pad to quickly top it up without plugging it in, which is neat. There's even a ambient light sensor or auto play and pause sensor. That means the music will automatically play and pause if you remove or pop these back in, which is kind of neat. They have 30 hours of battery life with the battery case combined, with the buds lasting around 5 hours when removed, which is also about average, I'd say. The other part here that's interesting is there is a low latency gaming mode, which is not a function that we always see, so you can triple tap on these basically to enter this for playing back games and minimize the delay between the audio and the video. They also use 7mm titanium drivers. These are also IPX5 rated, so they will survive any sweat or rain outside. They are very lightweight, and in terms of the smart touch controls, here's all the gestures that it supports. Again, you can triple tap to activate the low latency mode, although one function that is unfortunately missing here would be the ability to raise the volume higher or lower directly on these. So you have to use either the voice assistant or turn to your phone to adjust that. Still, it's a competitive option for this price range and offers a kind of simple, straightforward design. Supports audio codecs including SBC and AAC using Bluetooth 5.0, but doesn't have, say, Qualcomm's aptX, which again is fair for the price. We do have some spare silicon tips in the box, along with a Type-C charging cable if you don't want to use the wireless charging, and there's also a quick start guide. Casing for the buds themselves just comes in this plain polycarbonate plastic, but overall it feels okay, not too cheap. It is similar, I would say, in terms of the overall weight to, again, the Redmi AirDots that we're comparing it against. Both are pretty modern, simplistic designs that are found again at low price points. So here's a quick demo of the wireless charging in action. We can just pop it onto the top of this pad, and you can see the glowing just basically will begin to start. The battery case here also has LEDs in the front that will start to flash as well. Fully recharging the case will take around 2 hours or so. We have just the Aukey branding on the very top. The door here is opened and held into place magnetically. Once open, it reveals the buds, which are held into place magnetically, and it's quite secure, doesn't fall loose even if you give it a shake, and otherwise also easy to pop back in just by popping it close enough to the case, as you can see there. There is a LED light on the very top here that tells you the charging status, and then the circular area is the part that's touch sensitive, which in my testing was very responsive to my finger taps. It's not like some of the other cheaper pairs we've tried in the past, which have been a little more finicky. Sometimes you have to tap multiple times. On this one, it is actually quite responsive. Remind me a little of some of Sony's TWS wireless buds based on this circular dot design, but the difference here is the T31s from Aukey are very compact and small, and that's why, again, I compared them with the Redmi AirDots. As aforementioned, this is the Redmi AirDots. You can see the overall body shape is just super similar. You can almost tell me they came from the same factory and I would believe you. But even the tilt to the silicon tip is actually quite similar to each other, as you can see there. Another difference here, of course, being the touch-sensitive key here versus the physical button on the Redmi AirDots. And here they are next to, say, something like Apple's AirPods. You can see it's also not really far off in terms of the size. These are some of the more compact size buds that I've seen. In fact, they are just really tiny, even if you compare it against a US quarter. So it does feel very lightweight and comfortable as you're wearing these. Doesn't really apply any pressure at all. So for the full 5 hours, they can still fit and feel nice. Moving into audio quality and performance, I'm pleasantly surprised just by the fact that they do sound very clean, first of all. So there's no static, any hissing or distortion in the background aside from just the music. And as alluded to, there's actually a nice amount of punch to the lower frequencies, like drum beats as you're listening to EDM tracks or rock music. So it's actually quite good, again, for something that has 7mm drivers and is so compact in terms of size, but it's not weak at all in terms of bass. At the same time, though, it doesn't overpower the mids or trebles. In fact, the mids still have plenty of room to shine. When you're listening to other instrumentals and vocals, it still sounds pretty good in terms of the details, as well as the overall textures of the instruments and voices are retained. It definitely is an enjoyable experience, and sometimes feels like you're wearing headphones which are larger than these tiny little buds. Pleasurable for for listening to almost every genre of music I tried them with. So in terms of the drivers and the tuning, it is actually done quite well. In fact, I can confidently say that they sound better than the original Redmi AirDots in terms of just having a more clean sound, better bass, as well as slightly more details in the mids. Of course, at the end of the day, they're still not going to be, say, audiophile grade. If you're being super nitpicky, maybe some of the trebles can pack in a slight more detail, but again, for the price range, I already think they sound excellent for what it is. Low latency mode was also easy enough to access, and I could play back games, not really encountering any lag or delay between the video and the audio. Same thing goes with watching videos on YouTube or Netflix. They're all synced together quite well, so pretty consistent connectivity and performance in that regard. If anything, call quality is just merely average. It's okay if you're in a relatively quiet space or indoors, but the microphone is so far away from your mouth since there is no stem, and these are some of the smaller buds that I've seen, that it does mean there's going to be a bit more of compromise. If there's any wind or something in between, it can also pick up some background noise. So if you are kind of in a louder space, it might be not the best choice, but overall it's effective for a budget pair of buds, I would say, primarily meant for listening to music and even for watching videos with. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review. Again, wireless buds in general are just getting cheaper and cheaper, and you don't really have to spend too much these days to get a pair that sounds good, and this is another example of that. It has refined touch controls, which are pretty responsive, better sound quality than I expected for the price, really outperforming the Redmi AirDots in that regard, and aside from, again, the lack of the volume controls, pretty much everything else is on point without really breaking the bank. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Aukey EP-T31.